Hi, good morning. I'd like to do a video today about breastfeeding. And the reason is very personal. It is that my youngest daughter, that has been sleeping through the night since a long time now, has suddenly started waking up in the night and asking to breastfeed. And I think it is mostly for comfort, but also for the extra nutrition. I believe it's because we are getting ready to move soon to another country, and she is busy learning another language. So I think it is getting a bit too much for her. So while she's processing everything during the night, and she's waking up and looking for me. But I also happen to have many people in my environment right now that or just had babies, or are pregnant, or are thinking of finishing their breastfeeding journey because they feel they have given enough, or their circumstances do not allow them to include breastfeeding into their daily life without it being too much for them. So, this is why we are going to chat about breastfeeding today. I would like to start with talking about why breastfeeding can actually be such a controversial topic and why it attracts so much attention and so much drama when it shows up in mama blogs or mama pages or parenting pages. The reason is that actually we humans are not so good with dealing with the dual nature of things. And breasts have this duality built in them because they are part of our reproductive system. And reproduction begins with attraction. So they are built in order to help us attract a mate and get pleasure from mating. So they have a deeply sexual nature. On the other hand, they are also built in order to help us feed and nurture our babies and help them survive and thrive. It's not either or, it's and. And the thing is, in many cultures, the scale tends to lean one way or the other. So on one hand, you have the people who are like, no, my breasts are for my baby, and the people who say they are sexual, they're perverts, and how could they ever look at a breastfeeding mother and think, oh, nice boobs. Um, and usually this category tends to lean a bit towards the whole yeah, it tends to create a lot of guilt actually for women who choose or cannot breastfeed. And on the other hand, you have the category that is more, my body, my choice. If I don't want to breastfeed, I'm not going to do it because my breasts are mine. And I want them for my pleasure, and I don't want my breasts to change. So it's my choice. This category does tend often to disregard the need and actually the rights, the human right of babies for the best nutrition they can have. Um, I feel that in most cases the truth is a bit in the middle, and actually it varies from person to person what they need and how they can go about with their breastfeeding journey and how they continue it or choose to stop it, or the support they need if they choose to begin with breastfeeding. So this is why it is a taboo. It is because breasts are and sexual and actually related to feeding our children. And we have a difficult time apparently dealing with that. The second controversy that surrounds breastfeeding, or debate rather, is the two slogans that you see written very often in these mama groups. And the one is breast is best, and the other one is fed is best. It is very similar with the whole Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter kind of debate. I will explain why, how I see that. And I know it's a bit, maybe you find it a bit far fetched, but hear me out on this one. So, where does breast is best come from? Breast is best is coming from campaigns that seek to promote breastfeeding, and it is actually supported by the World Health Organization because, biologically speaking, and from a health point of view, breast milk is designed to feed babies. It is the best food for them for at least until 2 years of age, and from there on for as long as mother and baby and toddler find it enjoyable, says the World Health Organization. So it's not just a made up idea or someone's opinion. It is a consensus of scientists that at least until 2 years of age, breastfeeding is the best thing you can offer to your child, of course, along with solid foods after the age of 6, 8 months. And when it comes to fed is best, it came along because it does want to reduce the guilt for women who have chosen or who were not able to feed their child, comforting them that actually, as long as your baby is well cared for, loved, and has the best type of formula available to them for their needs, then it is okay, and don't need to worry too much about breastfeeding, which is fine. Uh, but the fact is, why am I comparing it to Black Lives Matter? The thing is that um, when you say all lives matter, you're irrelevant because actually, of course, all lives matter. That's a given. That's a human right. Um, but Black lives are the ones that are more in danger. So this is why we need to focus on them. The same goes with breastfeeding. Our contemporary way of life does not actually support breastfeeding. It hinders it. It makes it so difficult for so many women to achieve it because they have to combine work. Very often it's not even a choice, it's just a financial need to go out there and work while caring for a small baby or a toddler. So it is not actually a choice. Like breastfeeding is in danger because it is not supported by our current system and how our current economy works. And this is why we really need to focus to make that option truly available to women without them having to sacrifice other aspects of their lives. I mean, I myself have chosen to be a stay at home mom, yes, freelancing with writing, these kind of things, but that only after the kids went to bed. So, not really making a living, um, just so that I would be able to, breastfeed and be there for my kids in other ways as well. So that was a personal choice, but it involved a big sacrifice, which I'm okay doing. But still, it was not that if I would choose to go to an architectural office and work 8 hours a day, I would be able to breastfeed. Certainly not for as long as I have. And I find it really a shame because there are many women who would love to be able to combine both. Um, then it is very important when we talk about breastfeeding to be honest about it and set the expectations of new mothers or of pregnant women. Um, the thing is that the previous generation did not have the support that is available now. And this means that my own mother said, breastfeeding is quite hard, and I want to be there when you give birth to support you so you can focus on breastfeeding. Um, because that was also a time when, like my mother, for example, she got mastitis, and then you had to stop feeding, and then you had to start giving your baby formula. That's how they went about it back then. And now we know this is not the right choice. You can absolutely and should continue breastfeeding if you get mastitis, but just get the help you need, maybe antibiotics or other means of taking care of the mother while the baby is still being fed. Um, so it is, of course, it is good to know that the previous generation, at least in the Western world, does not have the experience of breastfeeding to pass on to our own generation. And this means that it's absolutely normal to need help to do it, to need directions, and to ask help from professionals. There are lovely lactation consultants out there who can guide you and who can make breastfeeding and actually an enjoyable and an easy experience. And it is a skill that we have to learn. And like I said, because we didn't walk around seeing mothers breastfeeding on the street or on the parks or in cafes when we were growing up. Actually, I've seen zero women breastfeeding when I grew up. And the same goes for all, actually, 100% of my friends that I've talked with. And thankfully, many of us went on to actually have very successful breastfeeding journeys thanks to the support we got from professionals or from our environment or from our own research and readings. For example, I'm a person who really bases their choices on science. So for me, just reading the facts about breastfeeding and the benefits were enough to make me really determined to try and make it work. And I was lucky enough to have a breast and a nipple shape that made breastfeeding very easy, because that's not the case for everyone. And yet there are solutions for it. And my babies were quite good with breastfeeding as well. And one of them had a tongue tie that was very soon spotted by the midwives and actually resolved right after birth. So I had very favorable conditions in order to be able to focus and have a successful journey. But it is not the case for most women, actually. Most women want or need to go back to work very soon after birth. And then they have to be pumping in a room that's usually thankfully it's not anymore the toilet. In most companies they do have like a little closet or a little office that you can lock and you can go pump. But can you imagine how much this disrupts your flow, like your workflow, and how it is to actually miss your baby and have to use a pump to pump milk like a cow actually into a machine. It's really not natural. It's really not pleasant from what I hear. I mean, I haven't met any mother who had to pump at work and say that it was enjoyable or it was okay or it was fine. They all said it sucked big time, but they did it for their babies. And because it is so exhausting and so unpleasant, most of them also stopped before the 2 year mark, of course. Completely understandable, and I respect them for respecting their own limits. And this is another thing about breastfeeding, respecting your limits, and I want to elaborate a bit on that one. So, breastfeeding and limits and boundaries. Breastfeeding is surrounded with a lot of guilt, no matter what you do. Uh, I was made to feel guilty for actually choosing to allow my children to self wean, meaning that is called natural term weaning, meaning allowing them to stop with breastfeeding whenever they felt ready. And I felt I had to, I had to explain myself, and I had people say that I feel morally superior for being able to do that, or what am I trying to prove, or what is my point, or them feeling attacked because I chose to do things differently. Luckily, I am quite strong headed and I had my data right, so it was not too bad for me, and my family was quite supportive, and my husband was very supportive. So even though I had backlash from relatives or from society for breastfeeding, also breastfeeding in public, or breastfeeding for a longer time than what they thought suitable or appropriate, um, to be honest, I didn't give a damn. I knew it was the best for me and my kids and my family. Um, and then you have other mothers who feel a lot of guilt and they are shamed a lot if they can't breastfeed and if they choose not to breastfeed. And yes, it is a very small percentage of women who actually do not have milk and really cannot breastfeed physiologically, biologically speaking, but there is a much bigger percentage of women who actually cannot breastfeed because of trauma. And I'm talking about mental trauma. Women who have been subjected to sexual violence and abuse, they don't want their breasts touched and they get flashbacks when their baby breastfeeds because, like I said, there is the duality. Breasts are still sexual, and if you have been abused, sexually abused, then even an infant breastfeeding from you can give you flashbacks. And these women don't want to explain that to you. They don't want to tell you your story. So maybe they say, oh, I didn't want to breastfeed. It's their right not to give you an explanation why they choose not to breastfeed. And there are women who are really focused, on other aspects of their life. And they still want to be mothers. They still want to live the full human experience. And they are taking care of their baby and showing their love in other ways. But they can't start with the whole pumping thing. They just don't have the energy for it. And yet they want to be mothers because they have much more to give in different areas. And they're also shamed and made feel guilty because they don't do the sacrifice to provide the best for their child. However, an infant with a mother who is burnt out and crazy is not a happy infant. So it is very, very important to point out that breastfeeding, if not, if you don't have the support for it, the proper support for it, can be very detrimental for a mother's mental health, especially if we are talking about a working mother. Yes, you can combine both, but you need to be supported. You need to have help at home to take care of housework. You need to have help when you are sleepless at night and then you have to go to work the next day. You need a partner who can actually take the baby for you so you can sleep a bit when the baby is not breastfeeding. Not everyone has that. Actually, it's quite a small privileged percentage that has more of those mechanisms in place in order to feel supported enough. Um, and I also want to go back a bit to limits and boundaries because I said to you before that I didn't care what people thought because for me it was clear that what I was doing was the best for my children. That is not 100% true. I feel what was a mistake in the sense that at some point I lost sight of my own limits and boundaries, because my oldest daughter was 3 years old when my middle one was born, and because I could see that she would struggle with the change, I chose to tandem feed them. This means feeding the newborn and the older child together. Um, and I went on to do that for 2 years. That was too much for me. I reached a point where I became resentful towards my oldest, and actually that resentment stayed even after our breastfeeding journey stopped. In the sense that whenever she came in for a close cuddle and she would come anywhere close to my breasts, I felt like I got goosebumps and I couldn't stand here touching my chest area at all. That was not good neither for me nor for the child, obviously. So I should have paid more attention to the signs of, no, now it's time to stop with the tandem feeding. Maybe I could have stopped a year earlier. So it's not black or white. It's not that I shouldn't have tandem fed, but maybe not for so long. So that is also something that when you do choose to start a breastfeeding journey, you have to keep reevaluating: is it still okay for both mother and child? Am I okay with it? Um, Children, you can't really force them to breastfeed. I mean, these are quite like sick and out of normal situations. Normally, if a child doesn't want to feed, they won't feed. So it is more actually up to the mother if she's still feeling okay doing it. And I want to do a little note on language here, because I know there might be people out there who are watching this and are non-binary folk who want to breastfeed, or families using surrogates, or lesbian couples and both mothers want to breastfeed or are breastfeeding. Please know that the reason I'm using the term consistently, the term mother or woman, is because this is my experience in life. Like, I'm a mother, I identify as a woman, so please excuse me if I can't all the time use inclusive language. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm trying to follow with the times. But yeah, I'm describing my own experience, so hence the language. But please know that what I'm saying obviously applies to all the non-binary folk who are wondering about breastfeeding and have questions about it. Last but not least, I'd like to close this video with talking a bit about breastfeeding and comfort. This is something that triggers me to no end, and it is when I hear folks say, "Oh, now do you still have milk? She's almost 3. She's just breastfeeding for comfort." Hear me out. What is more important than comfort in life? Life sucks. Life is very hard. It comes with the ups and downs. And the reason that we keep reproducing and we keep being on earth is, of course, that we are animals and we have reproduction instincts, but also because those moments of happiness and comfort in between make it worth it. So yes, of course it is comfort, but it's not only comfort or just comfort. Definitely, if I can offer my child comfort and they don't have to seek comfort in binge eating later on, drinking, smoking, I don't know, gaming, sex addictions. Like, childhood is the time that children needs comfort from their parents as much as you can offer it to them, so that their cup is full and later on they don't develop this sort of addictive behavior, seeking comfort in other ways because they didn't get enough when they were children. I'm not making that stuff up. And there are some researches out there, but with a bit of Googling, you will see that say that actually longer breastfeeding is detrimental to the children's emotional development, because they do actually get stuck to the level of needing to constantly suck something and being attached to the mother. This type of research is not it's not credible. Like, you can see what their sample was and what their theory was, and what type of proof there was, if there was proof whatsoever. And actually, the development of a child is dependent on so many factors that you can't even make conclusions. You have to follow many children for many years and take all these factors in order to see what the emotional and mental effect of breastfeeding is. I don't even know if it is scientifically possible to isolate really this breastfeeding as a factor to talk about mental development. But yeah, for me, comfort is what we all seek in life. And if you can get it, if you can offer it to your child in a way that is not detrimental to your own mental health, please go ahead and do it. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel you need to apologize. And if not, if your cup is empty, if you can't offer it anymore, if you feel you need your body for yourself, if you're feeling constantly tired and dizzy, or if you just feel that when your child is coming close to you, then you start, withdrawing because you just can't keep breastfeeding. It is time to stop, and be okay with it. Be fine with it. It's fine. Even if we are talking about a younger child or a baby, mental health is very, very important, and the parents are the ones who are taking care of the child. So you need to be mentally healthy in order to take proper care of your child. Please don't feel guilty if you need to stop. So this was my 2 cents about breastfeeding. Please feel free, if you think differently about the subject, to drop me a line, make a comment, and I will try and respond. And know that if you do want to breastfeed and you have difficulties, like practical difficulties, like you don't have enough milk, or your baby's not latching properly, or you have you have bleeding nipples, um, yeah, pain. I want to say pain. Sorry. All these things. So if you want to do it but it's not going smoothly, do search a lactation consultant. I do believe in most countries there are also volunteers that are certified from La Leche League. There are phone numbers you can call. You can go to your doctor, to the hospital. Just make sure that it's a breastfeeding one, because doctors do not actually get trained into breastfeeding. They do not have the knowledge required to help you and support you in that. Midwives actually very often do, and lactation consultants are the specialists that you need to go to when you want to, um, yeah, when you want to be supported with breastfeeding. That was that. I hope you feel inspired to look into breastfeeding into it, a different way. And if there is only one thing you take from that video, is that comfort, offering comfort to your child, is not just okay. It's the best thing you can do for them. So don't feel guilty about it. Have a nice day. Bye.